Hello, everyone. We are coming here to you from the ATD Conference in LA. Welcome to the EMC Leaders, the Leader in You podcast, brought to you by EMC Leaders. My name is Dr. Lola Gershfeld, and I don't have my co host today, but she was presenting, Paulina was presenting with me today, and we're having such a great time. One of the brightest moments is we are meeting people that we know. And today, my guest is Aoife O'Brien. She has been on our podcast before, but she has come all the way from Ireland doing a book tour
Yeah.
on her book, The Thriving Talent. And today, I want to ask her about her experience. Well, first of all, welcome,
Thank you.
Aoife.
It's great to be back, and it's
Yeah.
great to be here. And if you're watching on video, you can see the Hollywood sign in the background. So that's pretty exciting, I think, for me, for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us about your book tour.
Yeah. So I guess for me, I was planning to do episodes 300 of my podcast, a live event, but it happened to coincide with when the book was coming out. So I decided to turn that into like a mix between a live recording of episode 300 of the podcast, Happier at Work podcast, and the launch of Thriving Talent in the US. So I started in New York with that. I did a live podcast recording at PwC. We gathered some leaders together to talk about some of the themes in the book. I was interviewed by one of the PwC partners as well. Then we had some Q&A from the audience, and we also had a fishbowl. Have you ever heard of a fishbowl before?
I think that they is it where they put the questions and you fish it out or something?
No, it's more so that you have so in this case we had four leaders at the front of the room, and they were the only people who were allowed to speak. So everyone else is watching the conversation, and then they can tag someone and say, okay, you need to get involved in this conversation, and they'll swap in and swap out. Really interesting. Just a really interesting style, and I think it gave people the opportunity to be really honest about what's going on at work right now, because they knew it wasn't being recorded.
Well, I'm just going to pause here because this is so interesting. First of all, PwC, what a great organization to be
I know.
connected with, especially with your book. And as you talked about the themes in your book, which is great read, and it really talks about the relationships, how important these relationships are. What some of the questions did you get from the audience?
From the audience, one of the things that stood in my mind was AI. Like, we can't escape AI. I didn't want to touch too much on AI in the book because I knew by the time it was printed, the AI stuff would probably be a little bit obsolete. But I did want to acknowledge the fact that AI is here to stay. And one of the topics that came up was, what do we do in the age of AI when we're trying to build these human connections? And I think the consensus in the room was, just because we can doesn't mean we should. So just because we can use AI to do everything nearly, should we actually be giving AI all of those things? And I suppose it's also understanding, what should we be using AI for? So we don't outsource our decision making to AI. We can use it to help us to think about different options, but we don't completely let AI make the decisions for us.
Which makes sense. I mean, we are human beings.
Exactly.
We need relationships
Yes.
for our nervous system to kind of respond and to react and thrive. So that's very interesting. In fact, I also noticed that in the ATD conference, at the ATD conference, there's a lot of AI talks and a lot of sessions about AI. It's almost like you can't escape it.
No,
Right.
absolutely not. I think everyone is looking for ways to speed up how we do things, and work and learning and everything is accelerating at such a fast pace. Like, one thing that I think you'll be interested in this, but like an anecdote that I heard is, when we're looking to do something at work, we don't have to turn to our colleagues anymore. We can just simply ask AI. But it's in those micro moments that we connect with our colleagues. And if we're not asking those little questions, then we're losing that sense of connection with them. So I think it's really important to acknowledge that. And I think people are feeling lonely at work. They're not feeling that sense of connection with their colleagues.
You touch such an important point. That is so true that when we don't come for help, we don't communicate, we just turn to AI, we lose that bit for
Yeah. Oh,
connection.
that's it. I love that word.
You
Yeah.
know, the
Yeah.
bit, that moment
Yeah.
that we can show that we care about you, or we
Exactly.
value your
Yeah.
opinion,
Yeah.
or I
Yeah.
need your help.
I need your help with
Yeah,
something.
that moment.
Yeah.
It's almost like reminded me of during COVID,
Oh, yeah.
when we suddenly started to work out at
Mm.
home, and we said like, oh, this is so fun, right? This is so fun. This is so flexible. I can do
Yeah.
my laundry while I can answer my phones, right?
Exactly.
Or I can take a break and I can, cook my dinner,
Yeah.
and then go back to work. But the
Exactly.
problem is, over time, we started to become more anxious,
Yeah.
because we no longer are in the presence of other people that helps us to co-regulate our emotions.
Yeah.
And we're no longer in the present to have that relationship or to help each other to form that bond. Right, we lose that moment.
Yeah.
So the same thing with AI. I mean, I love what you're saying. Is that such an important point? Is that when we just turn to AI constantly without asking people for their input,
Yeah.
we lose that opportunity
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Yeah.
create a more
Yeah.
secure connection with each other.
Exactly, yeah. And if we're repeatedly doing this, then we're not having the opportunity at all to connect with our colleagues.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels, if you're on the receiving end or the non-receiving end, because you're not getting that bid for connection, maybe you feel lonely. And if you're the one who's always using AI, maybe you don't realize that you're losing that kind of opportunity to connect with your colleagues.
Exactly. You don't pay attention. That's right. You're not aware of it. And then you start to lose sleep,
Yeah.
right? You start to feel more anxious. You start to kind of like pace around the room. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
Or you
yeah.
withdraw, disconnect.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is very good. So New York was the first
Yeah,
stop,
New
right?
York was the
PwC.
first. Yeah, yeah.
What came next?
So I traveled also to Boston, and I worked with a company there, Zappi. They bought some books, and I talked about the book, and I answered some of their questions as well. They were particularly interested in psychological safety. So psychological safety is the foundation of, and I'll just open it here actually, just to show that in terms of the model.
Yeah, if you're just listening to the podcast, you might watch our episode on YouTube,
Yeah.
EMC Leaders, and you will see this little drawing. Tell us about this drawing.
Yeah, so the foundation of the framework is psychological safety. It's all about creating safety at work, so people feel free to speak up, to challenge the status quo without fear of any sort of negative consequences, without any repercussions. And then we have 3 pillars. So looking at workplace culture, the importance of creating a positive culture and avoiding or mitigating a negative culture if we have accidentally, unintentionally created one, which is often the case. And then looking at drivers. So that's about what motivates us at work. How do we understand the needs of our individuals? And I know that you talk about needs a lot and how to satisfy needs and understand needs. So getting into that, and maybe we don't use that language, maybe we talk about frustration. What's frustrating our employees, what's frustrating our teams at work, and how do we resolve those issues? And then the third pillar is capabilities, and that's about understanding people's strengths and how do we leverage strengths across a team, especially when people have maybe complementary strengths, they don't have all of the same strengths, and that again in itself can cause conflict. It can cause conflict when people don't, they may antagonize each other because they don't understand where the other person is coming from or what their value is that they bring to the organization. In all of these, I also talk about the negative issues as well. So in the example of capabilities, for example, it's about understanding what are the blockers that get in the way. So what gets in the way of us doing our best work and using our strengths? So it can be too many meetings, too many emails, lack of collaboration between people because there's too much conflict. It can be we don't have time for getting into flow, or we're managing our time in a way that doesn't suit us. We have different approaches to how we manage time and recognize time. The capstone of the model is all about leadership. And when I talk about leadership, I talk about self-leadership first. And this is where I've quoted from my episode with Lola on the Happier at Work podcast, where we talked about emotional connection and the importance of being able to connect at that emotional level, understanding ourselves and our own emotional triggers before we even think about managing other people and being able to relate to other people. So that's essentially the framework and how the entire book is laid out like that.
Well, I think you're hitting the right point. I really believe like a psychological safety for me
Yeah.
is definitely a very important foundation.
Yeah.
And we talk about emotional safety.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Right? Because the way our nervous system is designed, it cannot thrive. Your title is Thriving Talent.
Yes.
It cannot thrive if we're not emotionally safe.
Yeah,
Because our
absolutely.
prefrontal cortex is not accessible in that moment.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about is so powerful in terms of the importance of learning, understanding. How do we become masters of creating that emotional safety,
Yes.
psychological safety?
Yeah.
Because if the capabilities, all the things that you talked about, everything comes because we are psychologically
Exactly.
safe,
Yes,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So that is very, very important. I love that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's so key.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
It
It's
is.
hard for people to
Yeah.
get.
Yeah.
How do we become like?
Yeah.
How do we create psychological
Yeah.
safety?
And I think we assume that we have it. And I think, one of the conversations I've had here at this conference is that aside from the fact that we assume that we have it, it's become almost weaponized. So you can say what you said to me, and maybe you're giving me some direct feedback, but what you said to me makes me feel emotionally unsafe or psychologically unsafe. That's unfair, because what you've just done is given me some direct feedback, and now I'm weaponizing psychological safety and saying you make me feel unsafe. And then at the other extreme, there's being nicey and not giving any feedback at all and thinking there's no conflict in this team, therefore we have psychological safety, but we don't, because no one is speaking up.
Yeah.
And so I think those two extremes are really important to understand, because most teams, the default is we have not created psychological safety within the teams.
Yeah. We were just at the SIOP conference, Society of Industrial Organizational Psychology, and we talked about feedback and impact.
Yes.
And so it is so true that when people don't have a secure attachment, secure relationship, feedback will come across as a negative.
Okay, so
Feedback,
it's in ourselves.
yeah,
So
well,
I'm perceiving this as a threat.
Exactly,
Yeah.
as a threat,
Yeah.
because feedback, often usually people feedback, it's like there's something needs to be fixed.
Yes.
Right? And as soon as people hear like, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with
Yeah.
me, no, I don't feel safe anymore with
and
you.
you go
If-
on the defensive.
Right, exactly. You get
immediately.
defensiveness. So
Yeah.
when people share impact, this is how it impacted me.
Just a flip
Like
of the
flip,
word.
right?
Yeah.
Flip of the words, and also, you didn't do anything wrong, but this is how it affects me.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
When you say this way, or when
Yeah.
you do this, I start to feel
Yeah.
blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Right? Then it's like it's not about you; it's about my experience. This is how we impact each other.
Yeah. But
So-
as the giver of that information, it kind of gives you agency as well. It's like I'm taking responsibility for my own reaction to what you've done,
Yes.
as opposed to blame, where it's like the feedback I have. And I was just listening to an audiobook this morning that was the implication of, if you're giving someone feedback, that is it their fault that you feel the way you feel because of what they did? And you
It's
have to
so-
question that, isn't
Yeah,
it?
well, it's not their fault.
Yeah, exactly.
But people do impact each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the connection we have actually creates more impact or less impact. That's why we talk about the importance of creating that psychological safety and connection, right? Because we want to be able to share feedback
Yeah.
in a safe way,
Yeah.
and also the other person receive it and accept it.
Yes. Yeah.
So and this is very important, because when we share feedback, we're really trying to connect with that person.
Yeah.
When we're saying like, hey, this is kind of like distancing me when we do that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to distance from you, because you are important to me. I care about you,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
You matter to me.
Yeah.
And I want to, as a leader, I care about your experience here. So when you do this, it distances me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be distant from you.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting.
We're
Okay,
always
what happened?
seeking connection.
Yeah, always seeking connection, exactly. So what happened after Boston?
So Boston, then I went from Boston, I went also in Chicago, I was in Austin, from Austin I went to Portland, and then Seattle, and then San Francisco, and now I'm in LA.
And LA,
So
wow.
if someone
Wow.
asks me again, will I do this trip again?
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it thoroughly, but it's been very tiring. So I think the next time I would probably do a more concentrated, like either East Coast or West Coast, but not both at the
Yeah.
same time. I think, people were laughing at me saying, foreigners forget just how big the US is. And I'm like,
That's true.
I've been here before, and even I forgot how big it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And I'm just gonna I just want to say that you're very courageous.
Thank you.
But it also shows your passion.
Yes, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
your passion for your work, your passion saying like, look, I just want to have a big,
An impact.
like an impact
Yeah,
for people.
that's
I
what it
want
is.
people to know that there's a way to do it.
Yeah.
There is a hope for you.
Yeah.
And there is you can change, right?
Yeah.
You can get better.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think
yeah.
this is, you can learn this
Yeah.
capabilities, you can learn it, and you can create a better environment, better connected
Exactly,
teams.
yeah. And interestingly, so I do touch on the idea of mindset in the book. So whether we have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. And I always assumed that you either had a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. But what I'm finding for myself personally is that I can notice a fixed mindset in myself in specific areas. So like, oh, I'm not good at that and I'll never get good at that. And then a growth mindset in other areas. I'm like, I want to improve in this, therefore I'm going to practice and I'm going to spend time doing it. And so I think we need to look at mindset from that angle, that maybe we have a fixed mindset in certain areas and we think things are never going to improve in the team, or that person is just a difficult person, which I heard you talk about just now, and they're never going to change. And it's thinking about what specific actions we can take to help people to facilitate that change. And it's not making them change, it's to understand there are different ways to do things, whether you're an employee and you want to take more agency, more control, or whether you are a leader and you want to create that environment for your team.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, because yesterday at our podcast, we talked about the human need for to learn and to grow.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, there's an innate need, and this is Carl Rogers who talked about it, that all humans have this innate need to grow and develop. And they can only do it when they feel safe
Yes.
and connected.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I think this is what you're saying, is that growth mindset is the person who says that I can learn something.
Yeah.
I can improve in here.
Yeah.
But the fixed mindset is probably they're struggling.
Yeah.
They're struggling with connection, with
Yeah.
disconnection. They feel probably alone and isolated, and they get stuck.
Yeah.
And so we want to say, you're not alone. If you're feeling stuck, if you feel like you're not moving forward or you're not making any progress, you don't have to be stuck like that.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't have to be stuck. I remember one person called me and they said, like, I love that you told us that we don't have to be stuck.
Yeah.
You can change the pattern
Yeah,
in your
yeah.
relationship, so it will free you up and create that opportunity
Yeah.
to grow and develop.
Yeah, I think that whatever situation you find yourself in now, it doesn't always have to be this way. And for me personally, I left 2 organizations where I wasn't happy, and people said, oh, you're so brave, you're so courageous. And for me, I didn't see any other option. I thought, if I want to progress and if I want to grow and if I want to feel fulfilled in my career, then I cannot stay in the situation that I'm in right now, and I left. Not everyone has the privilege to be able to do that. Not everyone has maybe the courage or the awareness that they can do that they do have a choice, that there are options. But I'm really glad that I was able to do that, and what I experienced in those organizations is the reason that this book exists today, and it's to show people that it doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I love it. Thank you so much for being on our podcast and
Yeah.
being our guest. It was so good to see you.
Likewise.
It's so
Thank
good
you
to
for
see
having me
Aoife.
back.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. And it was so good to be here with you at ATD Conference. My name is Dr. Lola Gershfeld, and we'd love to hear from you. Please follow us and subscribe to our channel, EMC Leaders, on YouTube. And subscribe to our podcast, The Leader in You. And be sure to check out Aoife's podcast.
Yes, Happier at Work.
Happier at Work.
Yeah.
300. Good.
Yes.
Give me a 5. Good job. And
And
her
the book,
book,
yes.
Thriving Talent.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thanks
We'll
for
see you
watching.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.